Hey guys, it's me Josh Barton here with something I want to do for quite a long time now. I will start doing reviews. And what kind of reviews? PlayStation reviews. I'll start reviewing PlayStation exclusive once I, do Let's Plays of them and do a review of them. Or if they have like a PlayStation, option to them, I'll review that too. So I review in sections. I review in story, in gameplay, in graphics, in controls, in bad, and then in overall, and I'll give you my score of 1 to 10. So today we're gonna just jump right in. So we're gonna do the latest Netherealms Studios games and the latest fighting game to come out, Injustice: Gods Among Us for the PlayStation 3. Alright, let's start with the story for Injustice: Gods Among Us. The story is that Joker breaks out of Arkham and he sprays Superman with scarecrow toxin, and thus tricking him into killing Lois Lane and his unborn child, thinking it was Doomsday. So at that moment of grief, Superman realizes that Joker has just nuked Metropolis, killing 8 million. And then Superman finally does something Batman would never do, and that's end the Joker. So, in that moment of grief, he takes over all of Earth and becomes a dictator under this one Earth government. Basically, everything you have like strict rules. If you have superpowers, you're either against me or you're joining me, basically, like with Superman. But behind the scenes, for superheroes that aren't recruited with Superman and his evil army or dead, there's like a little group of people trying to fight Superman, and like some weird thing where Batman makes all the good Justice League from a parallel universe comes here and then says, we need to stop Superman with the help of him and Lex Luthor. So, yes, Lex Luthor is a good guy in this game. So it's basically the insurgents. That's what they're called. Is trying to stop Superman and trying to take him down, so we could go back to peace and everything. So it isn't going to be as easy as it sounds. One thing I've really noticed is this is one of the most graphic, most violent, most dark DC story I've ever seen, with some of the language, some of the violence, and death scenes. Just wow. So all in all, Injustice: Gods Among Us, the story is actually pretty good. It's very original. It's even though it's kind of confusing at first, once you play through the story, the campaign, which is kind of cool in the fighting game, it's kind of cool. Yeah. So it's actually not confusing after you play it. So, but the problem is that after MK9, which has like a 7 to 8 hour campaign, even though it has like a lot of filler, though this is only about 3 to 4 hours. I beat it in 3 to 4 hours, the campaign, which is kind of kind of short compared to what they can do. So that's kind of a minus on the super story part, where it's it's kind of confusing and it's kind of short. So, but all in all, the story for Injustice, it's very, very good, and I hope you enjoyed it. Gameplay for Injustice: Gods Among Us. The gameplay in Injustice is like a typical fighting game, 2D fighting game. You just two people stand in like kind of like side scroller kind of thing, and they just like duke it out, basically, with different kinds of combos and special moves and everything. Everything's here. Combos, basic attacks, 3 attacks, light, heavy, and medium. It's all here. With a few tweaks in there, it actually kind of makes it revamped. Instead of like the original 2 or 3 rounds, each opponent has like about two health bars. So with a break when someone's first health bar is depleted, so it's a lot faster to get fights over with. And it's a lot and it's a lot less time consuming to do each fight over and over. So it's actually really good. And there's also a few things else. There's like level transitions and interactive objects. Like you could pick up like in the background, like pick up a car or bounce off like a giant like ball. It depends on what kind of fighter you are. If you're like a heavy guy like Solomon Grundy, you could just like pick stuff up. Or if you're like someone like Nightwing, you just like bounce off that stuff. And level transition. What those are is that if you hit back and X, that you can at a certain part of the map, that it will send your opponent flying into another part of the map, which is actually really cool to look at. Anyway, so the last thing I really want to talk about for in-game is the wager system. The wager system was really confusing how to do in the demo, but now they explained it in the tutorial. It's really, really useful to get like health back, or if you want to do damage. Like if you're in a little bit of a combo, you could do a combo breaker, like I think back in R2, and then it sets up wager. Depending how much of your super meter you wager, that's how much health you get back, or how much damage you deal. Depends on if you are, if you're the attacker or the defender. Depends on who you are. So those are little tweaks of in-game gameplay, but there's a lot of modes in this game, which is really cool. So let's go into modes. In the single player, there's a couple new modes. Of course, there's the campaign we talked about in story, but there's battles. There's 24 types of battles, which is kind of like arcade mode, and the classics are the only one where you can actually get a beginning and ending. And for me, I like seeing those beginning and ending. So to me, the rest, even though the rest of the battles are kind of cool, they're kind of not useful at not needed at all. There's single fight, where you can fight the computer in like any difficulty if you want to practice or whatever and stuff like that. There's also Star Labs, which is like kind of like mini games. There's 10 mini games for all 24 characters, and so it's just you have to do this challenge. Or there's 2 bonus challenges you could try that'll give you like 3 stars and stuff like that. And for completionists, it's gonna take a real long time because some of them are really hard to do. So, but it's really once you get those hard ones down, it's really, really rewarding. So there's nothing really else besides like a training area for a single player. So let's go to multiplayer. Of course, there's co-op couch sitting where you and your friends can on the couch play it. But there's online multiplayer. There's of course there's player matches and regular ranked matches, so you can level up. And level up and get stuff from the archives, and but there's a couple more modes. There's also like King of the Hill, where you try to fight this guy who's called the King, and you try to fight him, and people can bet on who's gonna win, the king or the rival, and if you win, you can become the new king, and people try to fight you. So that's basically what it is. So that's really cool. And Survivor is just like an area where you fight all these guys randomly, and you try to fight them with 1 life, which is actually kind of cool. So, win or lose, I still suck at online play. Besides that, there's not really much for gameplay. One thing I really bummed out was like MK9 had all of these modes that, there's like tag team, tag team ladder, all these things, but they didn't include it in this game, so which is kind of real bummer. I wanted Batman and Superman going off against the Joker and Lex Luthor, kind of like that. You can still do that, but it's like 1 versus 1, which is kind of a bummer. But still, the gameplay for the game is just addictive and fun, and you just want to play some more. That's all you wanted to do. Graphics for Injustice Gods Among Us. The graphics look really, really good and real polished. This is like fast-paced, fighting games with a frame rate of 66 frames per second, which is real fast, and it looks really good to the eyes, which is it's really good. I applaud Netherealms for doing this. The character models themselves look real cool. You know, they have like a robotic, you know, armor to their look, unlike like, you know, suits like Superman, and it's really cool. So you know, everything looks good to like basic combo, to level transitions. Just super moves. They all look good because they're nice and flashy. Everything looks real detailed, even the backgrounds, you know, people's armor, fighters' armor, but like little things in the background look real detailed, and it looks really cool. So the graphics in this game are just like stupendous, you know. They look really good, and there's nothing really else I could say because the graphics are good, the frame rate is good, you know, everything looks, you know, polished, you know, detailed, and I very much enjoyed the graphics of Injustice, so I very much enjoyed it. Controls for Injustice. I have a bone to pick with for this team. I wish there was like a simple version of a way for people that don't have enough money to buy control sticks, because this game is meant for people who have control sticks, and whoever has a controller is basically left in the dust. I wish there was like a simple way to do these combos that are really hard. That's why I like the Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where it's like the normal thing where you could just like press like 2 buttons and you could do this like flashy combo. It's like something for me that I can do. So yeah, because I really suck at fighting games, and this does not help at all. So for me, for the controls, it's really clunky, really awkward to try to pull off these combos, and it's really hard to do sometimes. It's like like I'm trying to do the combo, and I know I'm doing the correct controls, but the game is being real stupid, cutting me off like really early, even though I'm doing the right combination. So it is really stupid, and it's really hard for people with the controllers to try to play the game. So it's really hard to play. This game is meant to play with a portable control stick, definitely. So yeah, so people with controllers, it's still a fun game, but you might have a harder time getting good at like trying to master this game. So, but that's just my personal opinion, because I honestly suck at this game. So the controls are like a little clunky, even though like some of them stuff are easy to do, like supers and wagers and stuff like that, and supers. So yeah, even though some things are really hard to do, some of them are easy, so it's kind of like balanced out. It's still hard to do combos, but the Injustice Gods Among Us controls for the controller is meh, in the middle, basically. So meh. Alright, so bad. All the bad things for Injustice Gods Among Us. And there's a few things that I really have a bone to pick with. First off, the story mode. Let's go into that. That's really confusing, and it's real short. It's about 3 or 4 hours I beat it in. It's real confusing, like a parallel universe, coming in trying to fight another universe of Superman. It gets kind of confusing if I just give it to you. Just play the game, and it makes a heck of a lot more sense. And the story mode's like 3 or 4 hours, like I said. Anything in gameplay, the wager system, even though it's kind of cool to look at, and they do say like really cool one-liners.
Smile. I am smiling.
even though that, it's kind of hard to pull off, stuff like that. Graphics, nothing really nothing to bag on. The graphics are like a masterpiece. It looks really good. The controls, obviously I have a controller, so it downgrades me. It's not made for controllers, it's made for arcade sticks. They should make a patch for like people with controllers, like, could do all these these super hard combos with the controller, basically, and make it super easy. So, but people will rant about that, but I don't know. Controls clunky for anybody who has a controller. It's really hard to pull off these combos and everything. So that also lowers the score, and that's really what I have bone to pick with this game. There's short campaign, really confusing story. Wager system is not needed, at all. Not enough modes, like in MK versus MK9. There could have been a heck of a lot more modes. For like online play and stuff like that, like Team Ladder or whatever. Graphics, stupendous job, and controls are really clunky for people who have a controller instead of a game stick. So it's really hard to pull off combos. So those are the bad things I have about this game. So let's head over to overall and see why I give the score. Even though it has a few flaws in it, Injustice is actually a pretty good game. A very very, very good story. Even though it's kind of confusing at times, it's still good. The gameplay is just so much fun. Even though I have like a clunky controller, it's still just go online and just have fun. That's what games do. You're supposed to have fun. It's really fun. The gameplay is just addictive, fun. If you want to master the game, that's really rewarding as well. Anyway, so it's real fun with friends. People online. And it's just amazingly fun. The graphics are amazingly good to look at. It's stupendous. I really love the graphic designs and stuff like that. The controls, you heard me rant about that in my controls and in the bad. So even though it has those flaws, Injustice is a very good game. So I give Injustice Gods Among Us an 8.5 out of 10. That's why I give Injustice Gods Among Us. So it's definitely a must buy if you're a fan of MK9. It's a really good game if you like DC. If you love fighting games, you can love this game. It's just an all-around good game. It's very fun, very fast, addictive gameplay for a fighting game. So I hope you enjoyed my first review of Injustice Gods Among Us. More reviews on the way, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all later. Peace.